Alright guys, welcome back to the Pokemans channel. It's Maddie here and welcome back to Meta Monday, the weekly series where we analyze the Pokemon Pocket metagame and keep you guys up to date on everything going on in the competitive world of Pokemon Pocket. This past weekend was PMPT number 37, which was in fact the last tournament of the B3A Paradox Drive ranked season. This is a really cool place to be in because tonight the new set releases. That's right, Everyday Wonders is releasing tonight. And with that, a brand new season. So there's a bunch of things that I got to talk about here in terms of news and updates. So let's do that. But after I get through this sort of intro and all of the news and information, then we're going to talk about the results of PMPT number 37. We're going to break down some of that information, but really I'm going to talk about these decks as they pertain to, next season and moving forward, because I think that's probably what a lot of people are somewhat interested in. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that this upcoming weekend is going to be a special PMPT tournament. So it is a 4th of July weekend, so it's a holiday weekend. Particularly for myself and other Americans. The PMPT team is mostly made up of American people, but that being said, I think it's also maybe a holiday for other countries as well. So in general, it's going to be difficult to run this tournament on July 4th because, of course, of the holiday, and that's Saturday, and typically we have 2-day events for PMPT tournaments, which is Saturday, and then day 2 is on Sunday. So this weekend, it's going to be a little bit different. We have the PMPT Holiday Special, which has yet another $200 cash in the prize pool, which is awesome, but it's going to be a little different. It's going to be a single tournament, or rather a single day tournament, taking place entirely on Sunday, July 5th. This way, more people will be able to compete, more people will be around to help run the tournament, and we're changing around the structure of this weekend's tournament just a little bit to accommodate the single day structure. So there's still going to be Swiss rounds best of 3 as there normally is, but instead of cutting to like a top 128 or top 64 day 2 bracket and doing it all on Sunday, the entire Swiss rounds are going to be Sunday, and then we're cutting to like a pretty strict like top 8, a non-concrete top 8, but it's basically going to be an X and 1 record. So it'll be more difficult to make it into day 2, but that way the stream and the tournament could all kind of run on Sunday, and that way we have data and we have the results from this new season going into next week's Meta Monday. So link to register for the PMPT Holiday Special is down in the description below, but I also wanted to mention that we're returning to the Pokemon Champions tournaments. That's right. The Champion Mads Singles Battle Arena number 7 is also this Sunday, $50 in the cash prize pool. This is going to be in the new regulation MB here. It's a single battles, 3v3 Pokemon Champions tournament, which I'm really excited for. I've been really busy this past month. You'll probably notice by the lack of uploads, but we're going to get back into the Champions grind. The mobile release came out for Pokemon Champions, so if you're not going to be playing in PMPT this weekend, then maybe play in Singles Battle Arena number 7, because that should be also a ton of fun. I don't know if we're going to have a live stream for it. We'll have to wait and see, but link to register for all of these tournaments are in the Discord as well, so go check out the Discord server if you want to register for the Champions tournament. And then lastly, let's talk about the new set release, which is, again, releasing tonight. And what's really cool about that is we will be live on YouTube. So last month when Paradox Drive came out, Paradox Drive came out, we didn't actually do a live stream. I dropped the ball and I was busy and I wasn't able to do a release stream. I typically really like to go live for the set release, and we do a max pack opening, and then we test out some of the new cards and new decks. We will be doing that tonight. So tonight, as I record this Monday, and that is going to be June 29th, we will be going live at 8 p.m. Eastern time, an hour before the set releases, and we'll be live basically all night, opening the packs and testing out the new cards. So come tune into the live stream here on the Pocket Mads channel. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that's all of my news. I know that's a really long intro. I apologize. You guys could probably skip forward. But anyway, let's break down the results from this past weekend's PMPT 37 tournament. Like I said, the 4th and last tournament of this particular season in Pokemon Pocket. And here are the results. That's right. We have McLeod from France, 12-1, and it was Mega Sceptile winning the 3rd PMPT tournament since its release, right? So Sceptile came out last season. It won the first 2 tournaments of that season, and now it's winning its 3rd tournament. This is actually kind of a big deal. Keep in mind, the deck that won last weekend's PMPT tournament was Hydreigon. And spoiler, it was the most played deck this weekend, I believe. So coincidentally, certain decks just had a better time. They were more well-positioned in this weekend's metagame. As we know, grass decks do well into Hydreigon, so they were definitely pretty decent choices. Things like Suicune as well do well into Hydreigon. So those were, a few key decks that I think were well-positioned going into this weekend. And as you'll see, Sceptile getting first place, but also Mames, 123 from the United States, was playing playing Meowscarada, also getting top 4 and 3rd place, which is really cool. And then 2nd and 4th place, both Lucario decks. So it actually was Pulsing Aura, the 2 Mega Pokemon that released last season, dominating top 4 this weekend, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool to see. And Rusty Kole from India, 11 and 2, playing Mega Lucario EX. This is going to be the standard fighting version. We'll take a look at it in a little bit. Grand Final, 2nd place. Congrats to him. And then Frog EX Takahiro was playing Greninja Lucario, which is another very strong deck. Made it into top 4 with a 9 and 3 record. If we get outside of top 4, we've got Spookador playing Zoroark. So Zoroark, actually our highest placing dark type deck this weekend. 5th place, Eternal TCG was also playing Mega Lucario in 6th place. And then we have Razimoka from France was playing Hydreigon. So Hydreigon sneaking its way in here into top 8. And then here in 8th place, Magikarp Fish from the Philippines was playing Greninja Altaria. So we had double Lucario decks. We had Mega Lucario and Greninja, Altaria Greninja, Zoroark, and Hydreigon with Mega Absol, Meowscarada, and Sceptile. That's your top 8 decks this weekend. And then once you get outside of top 8, definitely a little bit more variance here. More Lucario with Mega Lana EX. VB Zari from the United States was playing Altaria Greninja yet again. Akira 32092 from France was actually playing Meowscarada and Mega Sceptile, so that's interesting. We'll take a look at that deck. Magma Chocolate from Venezuela was playing Sceptile in 12th place. This is a different version here, but we'll break it all down. Heis 87, 13th place. Italy was playing Blaziken Greninja, so Blaziken finding its way into top 16 this weekend. And then here we actually see Javi 333 was 14th place, playing Mega Sceptile and Greninja. So Greninja definitely a strong Pokemon this weekend. Multiple different Greninja decks here finding its way into top 16, which is pretty cool. Red the Champion from Italy was playing Magnezone, so Magnezone as well, finding its way into top 16, and Ray 14, both from Italy there, playing Manectric. So it was the Lightning decks right at the very bottom of top 16, but within top 16 nonetheless. And then from there, a couple of, Miraidon, Scizor, Suicune, a lot of different decks and Sleep. So no Sleep anywhere within top 16. Charizard and Steelix, though, present. So some Steel-type decks outside of top 16 and top 32, which is pretty cool. Snorlax right here. Umbra Harian from, from Italy, 38th place. So Snorlax and Didi getting a slight placement, which is pretty cool. We had Froggy Egg Zorino from France playing Walking Wake in 46th place. And we even had Razaya from Puerto Rico, 52nd place, playing Crustle in Koraidon. So a lot of really cool decks. This was a cool tournament. Again, over 300 players competed, which we love to see. Just a really cool tournament. Really cool results. Let's talk about these deck lists a little bit and also talk about them in the context of going into next season and how I think they might perform, given the things that we know about next season. So in first place, this is going to be our first place deck list, McLeod's deck from France. Sceptile and Ogerpon. It's actually very impressive. In fact, I believe ever since Pulsing Aura released last season, I think Mega Sceptile is the most successful Pokemon. It's the most successful Mega Pokemon ever since it was released, right? It's won 3 tournaments out of, I guess, 8, which is actually very impressive if you consider, for example, Hydreigon, since Hydreigon's been released, like, from all the way back in B1, it's only won 4 tournaments. Now, it has made to grand finals a bunch, but Sceptile already getting its 3rd final place finish, which is definitely pretty cool. So I think Sceptile is very underrated, but like I said, Hydreigon won last weekend, so Sceptile, seemingly in grass in general, was probably pretty well positioned coming into this weekend. But I like this Sceptile deck. This is double Pheromosa, double Sceptile, 1 Ogerpon in here. We're not playing Celebi, but we are still playing 1 Slicing Snipe Grovyle, mostly just to get around like Chingling item lock for rare candy purposes. So we are playing double rare candy still, but with 1 Middle Evolution, double Research, double Copycat, double Fragrant Forest. No Pokeball because we don't need it because we have Fragrant Forest, and then double Rocky Helmet, 1 Cyrus, 1 X-Speed, right? So I think the Rocky Helmet Pheromosa combo in general is just strong. As long as you're not running into any cast forms, you're going to be in a pretty decent position, right? Pheromosa, 20 to the active, 20 to the bench with Rocky Helmet. Just a really, really strong leadoff card and one of the best cards, I think, that you could play in grass-type decks. And as we know, Mega Sceptile is a very, very standard Pokemon, very similar to Mega Blaziken, but I think the grass type helps it out a lot. We get access to Fragrant Forest, which is a really big deal, and we have Teal Mask Ogerpon to basically make all of our grass Pokemon immune here to status conditions, which is a really big deal, quite frankly. So I think that grass is Really, really good. There's just a lot of benefits to it. Sceptile is a really solid card, but again, you have access to Pheromosa, Fragrant Forest, Teal Mask Ogrepon, and those are all really, really useful cards that make Mega Sceptile a very significant deck. Moving forward, I don't know. They haven't really released or I guess showed any new Fire-type cards coming in Everyday Wonders. So I don't really know if Mega Sceptile will be knocked down a peg too heavily. Diancie is certainly a pretty relevant card. Mega Diancie, which is coming next season. That's a psychic Pokemon, but it's weak to steel. So, I don't think Dark-type Pokemon will be, that much better next season. In fact, they might be knocked down a peg, which, certainly means that Sceptile, when you're playing Sceptile, you're definitely looking for a dark heavy metagame and less fire type Pokemon. So we don't really have any information moving forward as to, things that would dramatically change Sceptile's position next season, but I suspect this is going to continue to be a really relevant, deck, especially just because it can play Ogrepon, and that's going to be really nice in a metagame where people are probably going to continue to play Sleep. Because even though Sleep was a very not successful deck this season, it was still a very heavily played deck this season. And I think that Sceptile with Ogrepon is always going to be pretty good. But anyway, second place, Rusty Cole from India playing Mega Lucario. Now, this is going to be similar, but we actually talked about this on the podcast a few days ago, replacing Sock here with Zygarde, right? So if you remember, a lot of people were playing Sock instead of things like Hitmonchan because it had 90 HP instead of 80, and that's a bit better, right? So you don't get KO'd by Espeon and whatnot. And certain weaknesses, right? As well as things like Manectric, right? Which can hit you for 80 on turn 2. Now, the thing about Zygarde here is it does have 80, but it's not weak to Psychic, right? So you're sort of trading off a couple of things because we have several options. Basically, Hitmonchan is the exact same card as Zygarde, but it's weak to Psychic and not Grass. So fundamentally speaking, this is a deck that is almost entirely weak to Psychic, and there are Psychic Pokemon out there. So it is a bit better. Gourgeist is one example. So it's just better here, I think, to be playing Zygarde and not be weak to Psychic because it's just in general a bit more important. Now, there are Grass-type decks relevant in the metagame, and as we saw here, this player, Rusty, ended up playing a Grass deck in Grand Finals. So when you're playing Fighting-type Pokemon, it's a bit tough because you're either weak to Grass or you're weak to Psychic, and both are pretty relevant types in the metagame. This player deciding to play the Zygarde instead of things like Sock. Again, I think it both, whether it's Sock or Zygarde, they're both better than Hitmonchan. But that being said, everything else about the deck is fairly standard, right? This is kind of what we've been seeing about these more standard Mega Lucario decks. X-Speed, Pokemon Center Lady, Cyrus, Sabrina, Corina, Arena of Antiquity, Rocky Helmets here. One Copycat in Double Research. This might be a bit different. They are playing one X-Speed and one Lucky Ice Pop. I don't know if previous Lucario decks earlier on that were successful this season in the week prior was playing, I guess, like this many one-ofs. I don't remember exactly. Maybe they did play double Copycat. Maybe they cut a Copycat for an X-Speed or a Lucky Ice Pop. But, I mean, Mega Lucario, I think moving forward is going to be still, like, the most relevant fighting-type Pokemon. I don't know if, it being Psychic weak is going to be a big deal with Mega Diancie coming out. Certainly, Psychic-type decks are going to see some more play next season with Mega Diancie, right? And with weakness, Mega Diancie is going to be able to take the KO on Mega Lucario. But the thing is, Mega Lucario can also take the KO on Mega Diancie fairly easily with the damage buffs of Arena of Antiquity and Corina, right? So we got to keep that in mind. We're like Rocky Helmet, even if Mega Diancie has a giant cape, or if it has, also, like, her starting planes, like, if they really are buffing the HP of Diancie, like, maybe you can get out of Mega Lucario range, but the thing about Mega Lucario, and the reason why I think it'll remain relevant for quite some time, is just the fact that it's one of the few Mega Pokemon that can reach and one-hit KO other Mega Pokemon. As long as it's not like a Stage 2 Pokemon, I do think that that's going to be a big upside. But the thing about Mega Lucario is that, it can't really KO Stage 2 Megas that well, right? It does kind of cap out around, like, 190. So that being said, things like Mega Sceptile with 210 HP and other Stage 2 Megas kind of have the upper hand in most case scenarios here into Mega Lucario because they can live and attack, and then you can kind of, it's just a 2-hit KO metagame. So you don't really have a big advantage for Mega Lucario. And anyway, I think Mega Lucario is kind of proving itself to be one of the best Mega Pokemon we've ever had. When I think to like the best Mega Pokemon in the game, Mega Altaria is like probably number one just because it's so consistent and it's been out for so long. But honestly, like Mega Lucario and Mega Sceptile are kind of the two other best Megas, at least like in my estimation, which I find to be very interesting. And I don't think that'll really change moving forward. Maybe we get a really good fighting type Mega that's not weak to Psychic and weak to Grass. But honestly, I don't know if that would be any better. That's my that's my feeling there. But yeah, here is this Mega Lucario deck, and I think next season, it's interesting. Like, there's not a lot of spots in this deck that I think could be replaced or upgraded. The Karina and Arena of Antiquity package I think is going to stick around. Maybe things like Hitmonlee and Zygarde get replaced by some new Pokemon, but for the most part, I think Fighting type and Mega Lucario decks are somewhat figured out, and they're probably going to be pretty relevant moving forward. Mames 1, 2, 3, 11-1 record. So an incredible record here, third place, playing Meowscarada EX. And again, this is a very similar deck to Sceptile in its composition, right? So the thing about Meowscarada is that it can attack for the single energy cost, right? So it's a little bit more of a Pokemon that you can lead off with and feel better about than Sceptile. Especially because we are playing double Rare Candy, one Metal Evolution, double Fragrant Forest. It's fairly common that you can just go turn 2 attack Meowscarada, and that is sort of the big upside to this deck, is that it's really in your face and it's really kind of what's the word for it? It's just very fast paced. It's kind of a high roll deck, but it's not in that sense. Either way, Meowscarada is an incredible Pokemon and one of the few 2-prize Pokemon that sees like really competitive meta play. And I think, again, it's a big contributing factor is quite frankly, just all of the support that grass has, because we're still playing Ogre Pond, we're playing Fragrant Forest, and now we're also playing Leaf Cape. And I really do like Leaf Cape. Leaf Cape plus Lucky Ice Pop plus Erica makes this Meowscarada EX, even though it's only worth 2 prizes, like a really difficult Pokemon to KO. Now, Leaf Cape is 38 HP added to Meowscarada, so Mega Lucario is still able to 1-hit KO you, so that can be a little bit difficult, but this Meowscarada is also a really, really good card. It came out a long time ago, but it can hit for 130 damage for 2 energies into other EX cards. So I think Meowscarada is really good. It has been sort of like the little brother or little sister, whatever you want to call Meowscarada, to Sceptile. I think most people just sort of gravitate more to Sceptile, but I think if you look at the data, Meowscarada, even though it's seeing less play, has had a very respectable win rate over the last few seasons, and ever since the grass buffs came out, I do think Meowscarada has been very, very good. It's like by far the best like other option to Sceptile. Yes, we have Decidueye, but I think Meowscarada is just better than Decidueye. So again, moving forward, I think Meowscarada is going to be in the same place as Sceptile is. I don't really know. There could be certain decks that come out that Meowscarada just has a better matchup into than Sceptile. In general, I think both Sceptile and Meowscarada do well into Hydreigon in the matchups that you would want them to do well into, and then they struggle into the matchups that you expect them not to do well into. So I don't really know if next season's going to be that different for the grass type decks, just like Sceptile. I think these are both going to be really solid decks moving forward. And I don't really think the grass archetype's going to be changed or upgraded or modified moving forward. I think we're probably going to get pretty similar stuff into next season, at least as far as the grass type decks go. Froggy X Takahiro, 4th place, and this is going to be Mega Lucario Greninja. Let's take a look here. So this is Greninja Lucario, which you'll notice is pretty much from a composition standpoint, at least this deck list, is identical to Altaria and Greninja, right? You're playing the Chinglings, you're playing Lucky Egg, you're playing Greninja, double Copycat, double Research, and double Rare Candy. And I think that this package here, the Greninja, Lucky Egg, Chingling package, is extremely strong, and I think it will continue to be strong moving forward. Lucky Egg is a very interesting card. Theoretically, this should be a good card in most decks, but I think that people really only are playing it in the Chingling Greninja combo decks, and to be honest, like any buffs to the Chingling Greninja combo is a big deal, and that's why we've seen the Greninja Chingling combo be relevant ever since Lucky Egg came out. It's been very scary, whether it's Lucario, whether it's Altaria. It really, currently, it's only the Stage 1 Mega Pokemon that we see play with this package. So, any future Stage 1 Megas that release is pretty likely that they're going to be somewhat good here with, the Chingling Greninja package, right? So, I really like it. To me, it feels like the only thing holding this back is the Igglybuff Darkrai stuff and Bad Dreams, right? Because I think in general, whether it's Altaria or Lucario, like it's better to be playing Chingling Greninja than it is to be playing Igglybuff Darkrai. I think it's actually just a better combo in the metagame, and it's less hard to counterplay it. But what's interesting is that Sleep actually does do somewhat well into this particular package. So luckily, it's one of the only upsides to Sleep in the metagame right now, is that it is somewhat keeping the Chingling Greninja stuff at bay, because otherwise it would be probably by far the best stuff that you could play. I don't know how that's going to really look moving forward. Maybe we get another new Stage 2 Pokemon, or Stage 1 Pokemon in this new expansion that we've yet to see yet. I don't know. Like, they released 3 EX cards, so we're probably going to get, or they showed 3 EX cards, so we're probably going to get 2 or 3 more, probably just 2 more. Maybe one of them's a Mega. We don't know yet. But Moving forward, I think sleep will continue to be popular. So the sleep to Chingling Greninja ratio and that interaction is probably going to be pretty similar as it was this season, except I do think that Psychic might get overhauled with Mega Diancie, which either means less Altaria or it means less sleep or both. And that could be a good thing, but it could be scary because it could really open up the way for Chingling Greninja. And that's the thing that you got to keep in mind. Like when Mega Diancie releases, like you're going to be playing that with like Gardevoir, right? Or Giratina or things like that. You're not going to be playing it with Greninja Chingling like you do Altaria. So the benefit to playing Altaria is that you can pair it with Sleep or Greninja Chingling, right? So that's going to be the identity of Altaria moving forward. Whereas I think Diancie is going to be sort of a different version of a Psychic type archetype, which I still think will be very strong. Fifth place, we have Spookador, which is Zoroark. So I think both Zoroark and Hydreigon have been in interesting places throughout this entire season. I think that grass, at least for the first couple of weeks, was much less common this season than it was last season, for sure. But I mean, I think the dark type decks are in general quite strong. They're going to have some bad matchups. They're going to have some good matchups. I don't know what this really means moving forward. Zoroark in particular, I'm a little bit more afraid of because Gardevoir and Diancie is going to be kind of scary for any deck that can't hit for like a large amount of damage in one attack, right? Because they're going to be playing Diantha, they're going to be playing some healing, they have high HP Pokemon. So things like Zoroark and Absol, like I don't know if I love the strategy, in the face of something like a Mega Diancie, but what counters that and like the point that I just made is that Zoroark here and other dark type decks like Hydreigon are really explosive, right? They're like in your face from early on. So they punish decks for setting up slowly. And if we are going to be playing Diancie with Gardevoir, then that could be a deck that's a little bit slower, more of a turn 3 deck, which could still mean that Zoroark and Hydreigon actually have good matchups, right? And for that reason, I don't really know if the Psychic type stuff is going to be too strong into Zoroark and Absol. Also, Gardevoir is weak to Dark, whereas Mega Diancie isn't. So that is another kind of entry point, I guess, for these Dark type Pokemon. It could be relevant. I mean, it's hard to know exactly what the new decks are going to look like and how they're going to match up into the the decks of this season. They haven't really revealed anything new Dark wise to shake up the Dark archetype. Again, the only stuff they've really revealed so far that will change the metagame for sure is Mega Diancie. That doesn't mean there won't be more new cards that shake up the meta. But basically, like I don't know. I guess the Dark type decks, both Hydreigon and Zoroark, do have some pretty good potential to be pretty good into the new Mega Diancie deck. So that's going to be an interesting thing to keep our eye on. Hydreigon this season saw a bit more play. It did get one final place finish. I don't know if Zoroark ended up winning any large tournaments this season, but it consistently is a strong deck and it always does well. Eternal TCG here. So this is going to be almost a carbon copy of the other Mega Lucario deck here. It is a little bit different in terms of like the Pokemon, or no, I think the Pokemon are the same. We're playing two of the same Riolu instead of two different ones. But we are playing here one Poncho, one Rocky Helmet, one Karina Antiquity. So yeah, so they cut the one card, which was Lucky Ice Pop. They cut that for double Copycat. So that's kind of the main difference here. Instead of double Helmet, I think it's Poncho and Helmet. And that's also one of the differences. But fundamentally speaking, this deck plays double Copycat and the other Lucario deck played one Copycat. I typically just lean towards like, I just want to play double Copycat because it's such a good card. But, in tournament play, it's a bit different, right? Where, you can kind of maybe just be a little bit less consistent and hope you just sort of draw the cards naturally, and then you have more options by cutting one of the copycats. So in general, this to me is like a very concrete example of Mega Lucario being extremely relevant. I do like the Poncho here. That's going to be quite nice into things like Qianpao. So it is pretty easy to counter Suicune Qianpao, but they do play Field Blower. So I don't think many people have played Poncho. It's just sort of a weird card, I think, in general. Mega Lucario here, this is a great example of a really strong Mega Lucario deck that I think we're probably going to see moving forward. This to me is like a very, very core list of what you might expect of a fighting type deck to be in upcoming seasons. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's just Lucario with Karina and Arena of Antiquity with Rocky Helmet. It's just a lot more damage than maybe some other decks are able to deal. And that to me is the primary win condition for Lucario, is being able to one-hit KO certain Pokemon, particularly Mega Pokemon, and win games. It's just not something other Mega Pokemon can really do other than Charizard, but as we see, Charizard doesn't see a ton of play, and I think a lot of people are kind of pivoting from Charizard and just playing Mega Lucario. But anyway, a shout out to Eternal TCG. We love to see it. Razimoka from France is Hydreigon, and this was, again, the victor of last season, and I think will continue to be one of the more popular decks, one of the more relevant decks. into the new Gardevoir Diancie stuff, I feel a bit more confident in saying Hydreigon probably would be the better option into that matchup than Zoroark would be. Hydreigon saw a bit more play than Zoroark. It did win last weekend, so I think moving forward, both are strong decks. Luckily, what's nice about Pokemon Pocket right now and moving forward is that every single type in the game has multiple strong options, right? Whether it's grass, whether it's dark, whether it's psychic, whether it's steel, like every type has more than one deck. And I think that's a really, really good thing. I think it's nice to have options. We also talked about on the podcast, this is going to be a slight just rant real quick. Sakaru pointed it out on the Pocket Cast, and if you haven't watched that podcast, go check it out. It uploaded yesterday, I believe, or this morning. The new, so not this upcoming update, expansion, or pack, but the one after, the one that is including Mega Rayquaza. It has been confirmed that Mega Rayquaza has an ability. So I think that right now we are at a bit of a crossroads where, if you're releasing new cards into the metagame, how do you differentiate or how do you segment these new cards from the old cards other than just general power creep and the cards being similar but being better? And I think the main way that they're going to do that moving forward, just like they did back in the A series, is they're going to start releasing EX cards, meaning Mega Pokemon, that have abilities, and that's a really, really big deal. So Mega Rayquaza is confirmed to be the first new Mega Pokemon with an ability, and I think moving forward, that's how we're going to be kind of ushered into the next era of Pokemon Pocket, is Mega Pokemon, but now with abilities. And I don't think we're going to get any of those in this upcoming set, but Mega Rayquaza definitely has an ability, so I think that's going to open up a whole new can of worms. It's also Dragon type, so it could be the first really relevant Mega Dragon. There's a lot of interesting stuff that I think is going to be coming in the next expansion. We'll see what kind of changes about this upcoming season, but I really like Hydreigon moving forward. I really don't expect it to be that much worse at all than it was in the last few seasons, honestly. And then lastly here, let's take a look at Altaria Greninja, which again is very, very similar to the Lucario Greninja deck. However, they were able to play one Pokeball and one Lyssia, which from a consistency standpoint, I do think is an advantage. When you can put Lyssia into your deck instead of double Pokeball, I think your deck is just in general better and more consistent. Now, Mega Lucario, it can do more damage than Mega Altaria. However, that's only when it has 3 energies, right? So Mega Altaria does more for 2 energies. Lucario has the ability to extend further with 3 energies. So, typeness and weakness does matter to some degree, but these two decks function very, very similarly. If you'd rather have a more, mid-game focused, consistent, really strong tempo deck, then you play Greninja Altaria. This to me is, if not the #1 deck in the game. I don't know. I know it hasn't won any tournaments, but I still feel very strong that Greninja, Chingling, and Altaria is fundamentally just probably the best deck in the game, or the strongest deck in the game. But Altaria is split between so many different things, and like I said, sleep is still pretty common, so I don't know if this will ever kind of become like a top tier deck. It was my #1 recommendation this Friday, even though I didn't get that video up, or last Friday rather. But yeah, moving forward, I really like Greninja Chingling. And honestly, it really just depends on what the metagame looks like, right? And I think that Mega Altaria is such a good card, probably the best Mega of all time, although you could kind of make a case that something like Lucario and Sceptile are generally better. Altaria's been out for longer, and I think it is sort of the crown jewel, #1 example of what the metagame moving forward looked like once the B series released. Now, maybe Altaria completely goes away because of Mega Diancie, or maybe, once the Rayquaza set comes out, maybe Altaria gets power crept. Who knows, really? No one knows. But I think that basically it was sort of the foundational, example of a Mega Pokemon, which is, a lot of HP, 2 energy attack cost, consistent, and does good damage. That's all we really care about. Now, the thing about Mega Altaria that's always been different than the other Megas is that the basic Pokemon is good. It's a really important card to any Mega Altaria deck, which is Swablu with Sing. There's no real other basic Pokemon for these Megas that has a better attack and a better ability to win games. Swablu is an incredibly useful card. And that's one thing that Altaria always had above, some of the other Mega decks. So, I really like Mega Altaria. I think if, at least at the beginning of the season, people will be playing less Altaria and more Mega Diancie because it's new. But we'll have to wait and see if the Mega Diancie stuff is really good enough to actually take some meta share percentages away from Altaria, throughout the season. That's going to be kind of the biggest question to me. But that's all of the decks in top 8. So again, shout out to all these players. And I know we didn't cover the decks in top 16, but we're going to go ahead here and break down the metagame data real quick. Shout out to those players. And I would cover those decks later this week, but unfortunately, it's the new season coming out, so we're going to be covering the new decks and the new metagame and stuff like that. But anyway, let's take a look at this metagame tab. So as you see, Hydreigon was the most played deck this weekend, and it was 10% of the meta share, but that's because it got first place last weekend. So you kind of would expect that. It went 81 and 85, so it didn't have a great run, but it wasn't a terrible run whatsoever. Miraidon and Magnezone was the second most played deck, 8% of the meta share, and it struggled, 56 and 66. That's interesting. I think Mega Lucario had a good weekend, so probably why maybe the lightning type decks just didn't do extremely well. Also, I think Greninja, the Greninja decks probably are able to contend with Miraidon a bit better. So that's one note. Sleep struggled. It was the third most played deck, but yeah, Sleep has been bad almost all season, and I mean, like, it hasn't been good. It legitimately hasn't been really even a quality deck. I know people played a lot in ranked, but in tournament play, there's just too much counterplay to it, and it's too much of an RNG deck. Like, it's 41% win rate this past weekend, 48 and 68, and it hasn't really been great all the whole season. And Mega Lucario, this is the fighting one without Greninja, 61 and 52, so a really great run for Mega Lucario. Suicune struggling here. Maybe that's because of things like Miraidon, Magnezone, and Lucario seeing more play than it. Suicune does well into Hydreigon, but struggles into Lightning and can struggle as well into Mega Lucario. So that's an interesting thing to note. It also struggles into other Greninja decks. It's kind of a weird metagame right now to be playing Suicune, but Alteri Greninja, look at this, 56 and 40. That's a 57% win rate. So, you know, when we filter by the most successful decks this weekend, you know, some one of grass type decks, right? So, you know, some outliers from a data perspective. Meowscarada did phenomenally well. 23 and 9 for the 4 people that played Meowscarada, which is incredible. And then right here, Sceptile and Ogerpon went 19 and 9. So a really big outlier. Even the 2 players playing Sceptile Greninja went 12 and 6. So, and Decidueye, 1 player went 2 and 1. So, I mean, I think grass, this was just a great weekend for grass. Probably these players hitting into dark matchups that they, you know, were doing well into. Magnezone continued to do quite well. Now, I'm kind of curious. This is going to be, where is this? So this is single Miraidon Magnezone, which fundamentally I think is still the best way to play Magnezone. I don't know why people changed from that. But yeah, Magnezone continued to do well. If we filter by win rate again, the one Steelix player went 6 and 3, so that's pretty cool. And if we go down here, Scizor had a pretty good weekend. 5 people played it, 19 and 12. So shout out to Scizor. And then here, yeah, so Alteri Greninja. So out of all of the decks that were popular, Alteri Greninja was by far the most successful deck, 56 and 40. And then, of course, Mega Lucario was close behind it, 61 and 52. So fundamentally, those were kind of the strongest decks, I guess, going into this weekend, other than the one of grass decks, which, you know, ended up like winning the tournaments and whatnot, getting really high in the standings. And I think that was more so an outlier of how many people playing Hydreigon and other dark type decks this weekend. All of this kind of gets reset. Like I said, going into this new season, we'll see what these new cards are. We'll see what the new decks are. We'll see how they integrate into the metagame, how they match up into other relevant decks into the metagame. Because right now, whenever new cards are coming into the game, there's so many already established really strong decks that they have to be like not only refined early on, but they have to just have good matchups into popular decks for them to really enter the metagame to a significant degree. And maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. We're just going to have to wait and see because we don't know what the entire new set looks like. I'm pretty excited for it. And like I said, guys, we are going to be live tonight at 8 p.m. for the set release. So definitely tune in to the live stream and stay tuned for the entire upcoming week where we cover the new cards and the new metagame. It's going to be a ton of fun. If you want to know what all of the best new decks are, we're going to be covering them here on the Pocket Mads channel. And that's going to be it, guys. That's Meta Monday this week. Again, definitely go register for PMPT Holiday Special this Sunday, the single day event on Sunday. And if you are, you know, just sort of wanting to play a Champions tournament, a singles tournament, then that is also this Sunday for the Champions players there, the Singles Battle Arena. Link to register down in the description below. Go check out the Discord. Stay tuned. Hop into the live stream tonight and stay tuned to the videos this week where we cover all of the new stuff. So I'm really, really excited. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're almost at 50,000 subscribers. Let's get out of here, guys. Peace out. Have a good one. We'll see you guys later. And yeah. Bye.